Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I had a video. Comics are a hole and need to dig out. And it's weird because a lot of the information in that video is kind of the same stuff I've said, for years. But for whatever reason, this one caught more attention. Bleeding Cool took some kind of blind shots at it. There's been a couple and what's strange about it is this, and I really can't wrap my head around this because as if you listen to this channel for any time, I'm a game theory person, so therefore it's like, yeah, if this then that kind of logic. And in my mind, my premise is, and I legit question to all of you: if you're enjoying comics right now, and as I said, and I'll say again, there are comics to enjoy right now. There are quite a few. There's more creativity in the indie market than we've seen in a long time. You have kind of new and different things not happening nearly enough, and the big two are the big bellwether around where all this stuff sits. But there's stuff that's happening that is positive. But the business itself is bad, and I don't think this is a debatable fact. You have Diamond filing for Chapter 11. You have several comic publishers now who are late on payments, and or saying they may not pay. You have books getting canceled and cut back like that. Those are unmistakably bad signs for comics. And a few years ago, pre-pandemic, when a number of comic shops were closing, if some of the sites, including Bleeding Cool, were bending over backwards, like, no, they're not. Everything is fine. And why? Why? It's like the hate trolls on Twitter who don't like women in comics or saying that the comic business is bad. They're lying. It's like, okay, but those are multiple different things. Those are those are different things. Okay, you can have somebody who goes, "I hate comics. I hate minorities in comics. I hate that they're women in comics." You can have those kinds of trollish comments. The people are like, "Women shouldn't belong in comics." Like, I like that at this point, like that's just an absurd statement. So it's like, why are we giving it oxygen? But that statement does not link to everything is healthy and fine. It's the business is hurting. A lot of the reason why Diamond's business is hurting, and by the way, this cuts both ways. It isn't just like, too much woke, Diamond bad. No, too much bad business practices, too much loaning comics money, too much propping up a business with no margins. Bad. So that if there is a drop in comic interest, if, for example, too much woke and 10% of the market goes down, everything folds like a house of cards. The reality is, and this is tough for people to wrap their head around, is a healthy business can quote unquote go woke, lose 10% of their business and not have to shutter their doors. The real headline there is, if your business is operating at a 10% margin or a 10% buffer, then that is not a stable business. But regardless, I don't know what, if you're on the other side of this argument, I don't know what good it serves to say, no, 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 comic stores aren't closing. They're fine. No, Diamond Chapter 11's fine. These are all fine. Comic industry is as healthy as it's ever been. Like, how are you helping? Like, you're owning the chuds on Twitter, but business is closing. If you put it this way, if you love a lot of the comics out right now, wouldn't you want to protect that and have them survive? Like, why in the holy hell would you want to put that at risk? Like, you'd want to get on it to get things working. It doesn't make any sense. If you are really happy with how comics have changed over the last 5 to 10 years, if you're like, this is finally the content for me, then common sense would tell you you should be all in on making sure that the comic stores are healthy, that Diamond is operating smoothly, because otherwise, all the things you finally got are going to go away. That's the logic part I don't get. Anyway, I I mean, look, this is, to me, this is just kind of basic business logic. And I understand the world is complicated and silly, and I understand that, things aren't always smooth, and people's emotions and thoughts and ideas get in the way. Um, but I still don't get the logic of kind of ignoring that there are clear problems, like objective problems. Comic stores having to rely heavily on tabletop games and other things. By the way, a couple retailer groups that I'm in right now, comic shops a couple of them are very happy right now. Why are they very happy? Because they have discovered the financial magic of Pokemon. The trading card game is like just stupid popular right now. And if you had some basic distribution lined up for how you can get cards, you can get boxes and you can mark them up like 4x and people will come in and buy them. If you're in any kind of metro area, there are several comic shops right now who are making rent, surviving largely based off of Pokemon. Now, it's a little bit of a dangerous game because, a lot of the shops get into the buy back the cards and everything else. The ones that are really successful are doing look, we're getting the boxes, we're marketing the shit out of them, gouging people, sure, and then we're out. And I think several of the comic shops were like, well, let's tinker with selling individual cards and having a trading system and all. That's probably a bad idea. Right now, you've got a hot product on demand, you can sell it. But anyway, I say it's a bad idea. If you can make it work, great. I just several comic shops kind of go to a bad place by trying to make it work. They don't really understand the business. And then pretty soon they're left with a big pile of pogs. I'm sorry, I mean trading cards. Sorry, that's a deep cut for people in the 90s. Anyway, for pogs, why were pogs popular? I mean, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I sold the shit out of those things, but why? Anyway, who knows? Beanie Babies, pogs. It's always something. I digress. Comic shops struggling to sell just new comics and cutting back. The sale order numbers down, 15%. These are, these are just facts. And for whatever reason, again, it's you're seeing it with a little bit this absolute line. I saw a bleeding cool article where it's like, issue 5 sold 140,000 copies. I think Scott Snyder was talking about it on his blog. And good for him. That is success and, great numbers. But a flaw there is that is not indicative of the rest of the industry. And yet when it gets reported out, when people talk about it, they don't talk about it like, hey, there's some success here, and now we need to figure out how to kind of clone or replicate that. Instead, they use it as, see, you jackasses who said there were problems. There's no problems. Look at this. We're doing great. And it's like, yeah, that's one title, but you're publishing like 60. You understand there's a problem there, right? Like you understand that, getting a couple numbers up, but the overall strength of the line is poor. Comic shop still closing, Diamond having issues, like that doesn't counteract any of that. Again, if you're in comics and you want, your business to survive, I mean, for that matter, it'd be like you going to work and you notice that there's a fire hazard outside your building. You're like, oh, there's somebody storing some tanks of gasoline open, and there's like for whatever reason, there's just a flame. There's just an open flame that's just sitting there next to the gasoline. There's also for some reason, people decide to pile up all their old newspapers in this location, and they're also just throwing oily rags against the wall of the building. This is a crazy business, by the way. Whoever's still like they're dealing in oil and newspapers and empty or sorry and open cans of gasoline, and they just have fire burning there for no apparent reason. Maybe some dry grass as well. Uh, who knows? Anyway, and you walk by this and you're like, that doesn't seem like a good collection of stuff all to put together inside my building, but it's really fun going to work. So I don't have time for this. Who got time for this? And then I'm just going to go in there and do my work. And I'm going to ignore this, whatever this is out here. I mean, that sounds absurd, right? It's a stupid analogy because it's stupid, but that's a little bit how comics are operating. It's like, hey, it just seems like there's some definite reasons to be concerned here in the old comic business. But if we admit that there's concerns, then, hey, the bad guys win. And you can't, I learned this later in life. I used to be really pissed about this because I was No, the truth should come out kind of guy. But you can't control what people say. Like, and if you're a YouTuber, or you're trying to gain any kind of followers, you realize this very quickly. I can do a videos like the one that I remember back in the day that used to get me so crazy was I showed the sales numbers for the Mighty Thor or the Jason Aaron on Thor run, and it very clearly shows financially that Jane Foster on Thor was a sales success. No doubt about it. There's just no it's black and white, it's sales numbers. And with that was like, well, let's look at the variant covers. Maybe they gave the numbers. Nope. Nope, they did not. There were some variant covers certainly in that series, but less than the previous relaunches. Anyway, despite that, I'm like, here is the facts. And then I had people who would both argue with me, like, yeah, see, that proves it. Go woke, go broke. It failed. Like, what are you talking about? The number that doesn't that's not how math works. Bigger number, bigger. Fuck. It's like, I don't even know if that's math. It's just bigger number, bigger. I feel like I've become a Bluey cartoon. But still, people misrepresented it. People are like, nope, nope. I know what's true. And you gotta what you have to do is you can't control that. And I see people in comics, and I've heard this firsthand. Like, we can't admit there's a problem because then people like Eric July and some of those people on YouTube, they'll start talking about, see, we were right. Comics suck. See, we can't afford to have that happen. I'm like, I don't, but you can't afford to have your distributor filing for Chapter 11 and not paying the publishers. You can't afford to have, you know, the page rates lower than they were 20 years ago. In a lot of cases, you can't afford to have comic sales slipping into the 20 to 20,000 range if you're the big two. Like, I think you can't afford those things to happen. I think you can afford for Eric July to say whatever the hell he wants. Like, that is arguably meaningless to the business fundamentals, right? I mean, I don't know. It's a very weird placement. It's like we can't admit problems because some people point out that there are problems. It's like, but there are problems. And I know that some people are dumb. And if you say like, hey, we really should have a better distributor who's modernized their business and focusing on making sure things are clocking along and shipments are being had and things are tracked and money is being paid at times, and we really need to have that. And if pushing and admitting and bringing that into the light and try to get a solve for that means that some, rando on the internet is going to say She-Hulk looks like she's got a penis and trans agenda, and somebody wants to tie those two together. I mean, okay, but that's a that's a crazy tie-in. And I guarantee you, there will be people in this video who will not have made it this far, who will in the comments go woke, go broke. This is what happens, bro. This is what happens when you LGBTQ woke. This is that's what happens. It's like, you guys got to understand. it. I'm waffling. I know, or not waffling. I'm bouncing between two groups of annoying people. You guys got to understand that if everything was like completely anti woke, it was like the comics made just for you and only for you. Diamond being a absolutely effed distributor who can't get anything done and is filing for bankruptcy, it would hurt you too. Like, those titles still couldn't come out. That's so. I'm talking to both sides here. If you like your content, or you have a dream of good content, or you can picture what good looks like, cool. I'm glad. If your basic business fundamentals, i.e., the places you sell those comics or the distributor who distributes those comics, if that's hosed, you're done. It doesn't really matter if there's good content on those comics, like from front cover to back cover. If it's brilliant, great stuff. If it's the most wokey woke of all time, or if the pages are just blank and nobody printed anything on them, like, if you're a distributor, is screwed. You're done. You understand? That's the crazy part. So no, it doesn't do any good. at all to pretend like this is all fine. Don't be the dog in the meme. Thanks for listening.